March Madness is upon us. This is WagerTalk's last call. Kelly in Vegas here, joined by the guys from Full Court Press. That's right. Adam Trigger, Rob Veno. I'm going to bring in both those guys right now to start the show. If you guys have a question, we want to answer it. That's why we're here doing a special edition of Full Court Press. These guys have all next week. They're going to bring you guys every single basketball game basically at this point in time until Selection Sunday. And so next Sunday, we'll be back with a special show. We're also going to have Brian Power as well as Steve Merrill join you guys. You're going to be getting our live reactions, live bets, of course, for that one. We've already got the comment section going. Yesterday, we had almost 10,000 concurrent viewers. It was nuts. Let's see if we can get half of that today. Yesterday, we were giving out all sorts of free stuff over there on Sportsmemo. Welcome in, guys. I did not have the greatest of Saturday. The sharp plays from the Westgate Superbook went 11, 15, and 1. I think they're starting to cool off at the wrong time for me. That is what it is. I do have a list from Art to Caesar that I'm going to drop here in the chat. Adam, before we get some of these questions answered, I have a handicapping question for you. As these conference tournaments starts to wind down, as there becomes more of a need, right, for teams to play or teams that have quit, how do you start to kind of handicap and sift through some of the situational things that go on here, right? We know VR comes on. He talks to me about power ratings. It's really easy when you're talking about the top 25 teams. Everybody's motivated, as we saw yesterday with Florida. A lot of people thought it would be a letdown spot, but they did cover every single number. I'm kind of just trying to figure out like Big 12 tournament starting, Big 10 tournament starting. Like, I think teams like K-State have absolutely quit. So why on planet Earth would I want to wager my money on them? But then the other guys are going to say, well, guess what, Kelly? We're betting numbers, not teams.
Yeah, it has become really challenging at that level because so now you got to deal with like the guys that have one foot out the door. You know, where are they going next? What is the collective motivation of the team? Where's the coach going? Right. In a lot of instances, you know, that's all stuff that you really have to kind of gauge. You know, you want to take it to just, and then you have, you know, when you start playing 3 games in 3 days, just to go in a different direction. Like I'll use the Winthrop High Point game today. That's a conference championship game that goes at the top of the hour. And you know, you've got a scenario where Logan Duncombe has been playing on a broken foot, right? 16 minutes on Friday, 11 minutes yesterday. He theoretically will be trying to play his 3rd game in 3 days on a broken foot. And if he's not out there, that drastically changes the outlook for Winthrop in that game. So, you know, you're sitting there thinking Winthrop plus 7.5 is a good bet, but if you don't get him out there, you know, it really changes the game. And then I want one more thing I'll say, because Rob and I do this every single day on Full Court Press. We recap the previous day. I had Kelly, before we came on air, I said I had the worst day of my season. And I'm going to amend that to say the most frustrating day for me. And the reason I say most frustrating and not worst is I know a lot of my clients still won with my information, but Long Island minus 8.5. Lands 8. That got shoved in my face all the way down to minus 5.5. You have to think someone maybe bet on a Fuller, Jamal Fuller being out. He wasn't out. He played, went for 17 and 10. But that's just another example of the uncertainty. He tweaks an ankle against Chicago State. The market bets it as if he's going to be out. He shows up and plays the full game, plays 35 minutes, goes for a double-double. So you actually covered with LIU at just about any number, except for the one I gave out on the show. And then I had Providence last night, had it money line. And, you know, about 30 minutes after that, 1.5s are available, I think is where it got up to. Sure enough, the game lands 1. You and John Murray always tell me the games don't land 1. And Kelly, what happened yesterday?
Well, you know, that's NFL. He says NFL games don't land 1. Rob Veno, how was your Saturday? Trig and I were bitching a little bit before you popped on, and I said I had 2 games push on me, and it was so frustrating because I gave out Auburn plus 7.5 on the show. I see it all the way down to 6, and I said, okay, guys, let's do your thing, and it didn't matter. The Crimson Tide absolutely obliterated that team. So we can sit here and say, oh, yeah, I'm going to get the best of the number. We're going to get the worst of the number. at the end of the day, we still need these guys to play. Maybe you can answer my situational question a little bit more, because it sure looked like Auburn quit last night.
Well, let me just address the miserable play you were speaking of with Towson. Dear Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, Towson's winning by 23 with 5 minutes left, and they don't get there. Laying 6.5. Absolutely incredible. Get outscored 28-11 down the stretch. Boy, oh boy. Well, once you think you're comfortable, you're not in these situations, Kel. I don't, the Auburn situation is weird. I'll add another one to that mix of like K-State with USC. We saw USC get blown out again last night by UCLA. Chad Baker Mazzara thrown off the team. Eric Musselman really not knowing what to do with this squad. Arenas comes in, billed as this highly touted high school phenom, comes in, doesn't play the beginning of the year, and doesn't do much once he got back. So USC's a wreck. I wouldn't want them. K-State's a wreck. I wouldn't want them. The Auburn side, I don't know if Stephen Pearl's message has worn out really quickly. Maybe the players are tiring of him. I'm not sure. That's a little bit different. But in the case of K-State and USC, I think you probably identify two teams right there that you wouldn't want any part of in conference tournament season. And and like I say all the time, all of these things are individual, situational. Those are two we can single out. But most of the other teams, Kel, that had bad conference regular seasons will come to play conference tournament time. So you have to be careful in that aspect. For myself, I'll brighten the mood here. I did have a 6-3 yesterday. Really wanted the 7-2. The loser at the end of the night was BYU Texas Tech over 158.5. Get to 158, which was kind of miserable, but otherwise 6-3 day, really, really good. One of the losses again was the one I had here in our leg of the parlay. Appalachian State absolutely dismissed from the opening tip by Southern Miss. And Adam was talking about 3-3 days in that Sun Belt tournament. Two teams today, stairway to 7. Georgia Southern, 5th straight game. Southern Miss, 4th straight game. Georgia Southern, obviously, with a Nate Oates disciple as head coach, doesn't seem to be tiring whatsoever as the days go on.
Ooh, yes. I would agree with that. Bill Sandoval wants to say, let's hit some of these 9 a.m. games. That's what we're going to do here for you guys. He's one of our WagerTalk insiders. To become a WagerTalk insider, wt.buzz/insiders. Okay, I've got my odds logic screen open. Lots of noon Eastern games. Actually, not really. There's only a handful today. Let's go. Let's just start with the obvious. Penn State, Rutgers. This does not look like an exciting game. Rutgers, a 4.5-point favorite there at the Superbook. Total 150. Talk to me about bottom of the barrel Big Ten basketball here, Trig. Is there any value here in this one?
Sorry, I had myself muted.
Good job.
Being good for a change. I think I saw Penn State's going to be without one of their starters. I mean, I got to be honest. This was quickly crossed off my list today. These are two bad Big Ten teams. I do like the way Rutgers has played of late, Kelly. They had a nice win on the road at Maryland. They really impressed for a good portion of that game with Michigan State. Even battled back to make it 4. So that was a competitive game. Michigan State started to pull away, and then Rutgers battled right back to make it very competitive at the end. So, it's at Rutgers. One thing I will tell you, the Jersey Mike's Arena is always going to get a decent crowd. Even when the team isn't good, they tend to show up there. This is the final day of the regular season. So this is a scenario where, for two bad, I guess you would call it bad teams, you think, okay, maybe this is an uninteresting game. The folks of Piscataway, New Jersey will be interested. And, this is, again, you look at these two teams and where they are right now, like Rutgers is still having the better season. I just think Rutgers has the better vibes at this point, if you will. And then, at home where they tend to get a good crowd, it's not a huge number, -4.5. I think I'd lean toward Rutgers, but Kelly, this was a game that I quickly crossed off. Did not want any part of this game.
All right, well, let's go down the list. Jason Jones wants to know UNC Wilmington versus Campbell. I've got my odds logic screen open, and it looks like NC Wilmington, good grief, is taking some money, now up to 8 from the opener of 7. And I think we may see an 8.5 because it's starting to get juice there over Campbell. We've seen some under money come in. Rob Veno, any opinion here on this noon Eastern tip? And now I got Rob Veno muted.
Oh, how about I was trying to be good and mute myself? The dog was going crazy. Obviously with Campbell, guys, you're always looking toward over when they play. High scoring team. They played Wilmington twice here. Wilmington actually contained their offense pretty well. To get to the point of the money to the under, these 2 games during the season went 153 and 141. Wilmington, the best team in this league, but the problematic matchup that they had was William and Mary, which is very similar to Campbell in style, right? Just racehorse, greyhound, 94-foot wide open basketball. And Wilmington didn't put Campbell away in either of those 2 games during the regular season. Win by 3, win by 5. To me, it might be easy to look and jump on Wilmington here, but Wilmington seems to have a style problem with teams that are going to play wide open, fast break style basketball. William and Mary and Campbell fit that bill. So maybe plus 7.5 here. I didn't play it, guys, for those couple of reasons. Because Wilmington was pretty good about containing Campbell's offense this season, so I couldn't get to the over. And B, I somewhat lean Campbell here plus the points. Wilmington's clearly the better team. They just have trouble with this type of team.
All right, let's keep it going with some of these other ones here. Tipping off early. We'll go to Anthony's question. Colgate, Lehigh. Let me get that odds logging screen back open here. 1.5 Colgate open, now up to 2 in some spots, 2 juiced at a couple of prominent offshores. 147.5 was the opener, Trig. And under money coming in there. Question on some of these tournaments, as you guys mentioned, this team's on their 4th game, this team's on their 5th game, and so forth. Are we just seeing automatic under money? People are expecting tired legs here?
So I'm glad you brought that up. It's important you know the difference between the conference tournaments. These teams are not on any sort of back-to-back because this is the Patriot League. They play on campus site. So all these games are spaced out. This is a home game for Lehigh by virtue of being the 2 seed. They actually won that tiebreaker by beating Colgate twice during the regular season. Kelly, both 1-point wins for Lehigh during the regular season. I'd be really surprised if Lehigh won this game. You know, this is one where I thought about Colgate. I thought about taking a Colgate money line. They do have what Lehigh does have going for them is that they're playing at home. They shot the ball incredibly well against Colgate during the regular season, over 50% from 3 in those 2 meetings. But if they don't shoot the ball well here, that's where I think it's going to take another, solid 40 to 50% 3-point shooting night for Lehigh, in my opinion, to have a chance in this game. On the other side with Colgate, Jalen Cox didn't play the finale against Navy, but he is back. He looked fine against Loyola. Actually had a great game. I believe 21 points on 7 for 11 shooting. Colgate won and covered in that game. Went way over. It was a game that Rob and I highlighted on Full Court Press earlier this week. If he's the most improved player in the Patriot League, Matt Langle from Colgate talked about losing Braden Smith last year and, how it was the first time he lost a player of that caliber before graduation because Colgate doesn't have grad school. So he's lost some 5th-year seniors at times. Jalen Cox was the guy last year that got thrown into the fire. Didn't have a great season, but he has matured tremendously. He's become arguably, he's one of the best players in this season. Certainly the best player in this league, not on Navy. I'll say that much about Jalen Cox. If he has a good game here and Colgate and Lehigh doesn't go nuts from 3, it is just very, very difficult to see Lehigh winning this game. So I lean toward Colgate on the money line.
All right. I know the comment section keeps saying that these guys don't care about the Big Ten, but lots of people want to know about the Nebraska-Iowa game. We're going to save that for a little bit later in the show. We're going to kind of go down in rotation order here. This game starts at 2 p.m. Eastern. Rob Veno, Memphis, Tulane. Memphis short favorite here. Total 151.5.
Yeah, I feel for Penny Hardaway. This season has turned into an absolute train wreck. Memphis now It's interesting, Kelly, because if you look at the metric websites of the world, the Ken Palms, Bartovics, etc., you'll find that Memphis's defensive numbers look pretty good. But you look at what they've done recently and you realize that those overall season numbers just don't account for current form, which in Memphis's case is absolutely miserable. Played a South Florida team total over against them the other day, cleared with ease. Tulane's off of an absolute beating against Temple the other night. This is a game that Adam and I talked about where I think the two of us kind of lined up, not with a play on the game, but with the thought that perhaps Tulane could get there against Temple. They were plus 5.5. They were never in the game. Congratulations to the guy in the chat who pointed out Temple that day. He was right, a little bit wrong on that one. Both of these teams, miserable. Ron Hunter hasn't been able to figure it out for Tulane. I mean, Rowan Brumbaugh is a nice player, but there's something about Tulane that looks a little lackadaisical. I wouldn't want either one of these teams, to tell you the truth. Total here sits at 151.5. Perhaps you can find some headway there with an over because, like I say, Memphis, among all of their other problems, has currently just stopped playing defense. So maybe a look at the over.
All right, so I'm about to drop the sharp plays from Art to Caesar in the chat, but one of them is on this list, and I thought, are we really going to bet Temple? Like, oh, God, this looks awful. Temple is, they were plus 11.5, now down to 10.5. Some 11 still available on the odds logic screen, so definitely shop around. 153 is the total trig. Sharp money came in on the Owls, and they're one of those teams that it's kind of almost like hold your nose, close your eyes, and press the bet button.
Yeah, I almost want to defer to Rob on this one. He's had such a better beat on Temple than me, and he kind of was alluded to the fact that they might run Tulane out the other night, and they did. So I'll take the next one. I'll let Rob talk about Temple. That's in his neck of the woods, Kel. Right in his backyard. So you got to give him Temple.
All right. Well, not a ton of sharp plays today, but I Temple was the hard one for me. It was the last one I bet when I got the list, and I thought, all right, I can still get 11, only losing a half point of value here. Veno, talk me into the Owls, or tell me maybe I need to bet off of it.
Yeah, I don't, Temple's been a difficult team to figure, Kelly. That game the other night against Tulane, their offensive performance was kind of unexpected, out of left field. Like I said, somebody in our chat the other day on Full Court Press came in with that play, liking the Temple side. Absolutely correct. Not sure that I would have agreed there. But here's the problem for me with Temple is Tulsa is such a terrific shooting team, an offensive powerhouse inside the AAC. And it's your final home game if you're Tulsa. There's going to be energy, motivation to play well. It's not like this is a letdown spot for Tulsa in my mind. Now, you could say maybe they just get wrapped up in all the ceremonies and stuff, and Temple sneaks in and gets under the number, which is thoroughly possible because what I saw the other night out of them, it's hard to tell if it's a turning of the corner for Temple offensively and a bet on signal, or if it's just a one-off mirage offensive game out of Temple. So I think that's where I have trouble with this game, not knowing exactly which way to go with Temple here. But I tell you what, betting against Tulsa this season has not been that good of a thing to do. The points are excessive, though. Again, there's a lot of back and forth cases to be made here. I don't have a real firm opinion on that, so not going to talk anybody off what they like. Oh, Kelly's muted.
I'm muted. Good grief. Today, it's Sunday, guys. Can you tell? Let's see. We got a viewer from Mexico. That's awesome. Poncho wants to know about Central Arkansas versus Queens, North Carolina. That was a fun moment on the Kelly and Murray pod a couple weeks ago that was my second guess of where they were, Trig. And I think I only knew the answer because it was a Queen City. But talk to me about this game. Central Arkansas laying 2.5.
Yeah, this team. So the cool thing here is one of these two teams will go to the NCAA tournament for the first time. This is the championship game out in the Atlantic Sun. One of my losses yesterday was playing against Queens. I had Austin P. They were tremendous against Austin P's zone. I thought they were going to have trouble with the zone and what P would do to them. And they spread them out. They hit open shot after open shot. move the ball extremely well. And I kind of think that they could do that here to Central Arkansas. But man, the Central Arkansas team this season, anytime I've doubted them, they've won. I think they had a lot of doubters, to be honest with you. I don't think anyone had Central Arkansas up in the upper echelon of the Atlantic Sun coming into the season, but Cameron Hunter's just been so good for them. He, of course, started his career at Central Arkansas, went to Wisconsin for a year. I think he was hurt for a year in between there. He's back, and he's clearly just one of the best players in this league. He'll probably be the best player on the floor in this game. In my opinion, you've got the best player on the floor with Central Arkansas. I do think Queens sets up to maybe score some points here. If I absolutely had to, I'd play Central Arkansas because I just think best player on the floor, the way they've been playing, their ability to hit the three-point shot, I prefer that. But at 2.5, I've got this closer to pick. So it's not something I'm going to play at -2.5. I can see the reasons for wanting to play Queens, but Kelly, I'm a little stubborn in the regards that, like, I went against Queens with Austin Peay yesterday. The only way I could come back is probably with Central Arkansas because I still think I'm getting roughly the same setup yesterday. I just am a little bit concerned now seeing Queens sort of torch that Austin Peay zone.
You know, it's part of my job hosting the show. And the guy that always says how much he hates me hosting is not here today. There's a lot nicer people in the comments on Sundays.
They all hate me in the comments.
So
Kelly,
maybe that's
they all hate me. They all hate me in the comments. I see someone like Fade Trigg. I think I'm even with the
really nice comment about you.
With the 0-3 yesterday, I think I'm like plus 49 units since January 1st. And they show up every day to listen to me talk about Central Arkansas. So
it is what it is. One of the things, though, that I forgot to ask is, are we doing a parlay today?
Yes. Parlay every day. We got to hit a couple of them because we're chasing right now.
We're running out of days, Craig. I'm going to let Veno go first, and then we're going to cover a couple more of these early games before we get into some of the, I'll say it, the sexier games on the slate: Nebraska, Iowa, Michigan, Michigan State. Oh, yes, Sienna. You were correct about Sienna yesterday. That was not one that I tailed. And I saw the score, and I was like, son of a – as soon as I saw they were up like 20, I was like, I knew it. I screwed myself.
Weren't up 20 for long. They needed to hit free throws. I mean, yeah, so I might as well just talk about it. Someone in the chat just asked about it. So, yeah, Sienna got out to a big lead yesterday. Mount St. Mary's came roaring back, cut it to 1, I believe, 2 late, and it actually took a couple Gavin Doty free throws to close that game out and win by 5. What I said yesterday about Sienna, I think still holds true here. Antonio Chandler not going to play in this tournament. There are people that think Sienna should have to forfeit the season because they had an ineligible player on the roster, to which I would say, well, all these other schools like Gonzaga gave Tyon Grant-Foster an extra year. Like, you have all these other schools giving guys like their 6th year. And basically, Kelly, this is a guy that came from D2 that they thought was going to have a year of eligibility, and clearly he doesn't, but no one said anything until like the last week of February. So he's now ineligible. He's out for the MAC tournament. As far as we know, Sienna is not going to have to forfeit the season, so they will get to play tonight. And the reason I'm bringing all that up, Cal, is I think what I saw last night was kind of what I alluded to on the show. That was a pissed off team that has been getting dicked around by the MAC all week with this whole ordeal. Like, this just magically came, someone realized this the first week in March. Like, this is something they could have probably figured out months ago. Takes out one of the best players, at least Antonio Chandler. He's not one of the best players on the team, but he's been one of the best players for Sienna down the stretch. And, I just saw what I saw last night was Gavin Doty willing to take over, just upset. He was the guy that lost out on MAC Player of the Year to Kavere Kennedy. Going into the season, I think many thought Doty was the best player in this conference. He has had 2 huge games this year against Fairfield. They split the regular season series, but again, something tells me that if they show up and they're ready to play, listen, Fairfield's been a great story. They turned around a nothing season. I think at one point they were like 1-6 or 1-7. They've been red hot, but I still think Sienna is the better of these two teams. Just like yesterday, Kelly, they're betting Fairfield. This is down to like Sienna -1.5. You can get a Sienna money line with the better team, or Sienna money line. They're still the better team. It's on a neutral court. It's a tough gym to shoot in. And I just think Sienna's grit and toughness wins out tonight, similar to the way it did last night. So, I lean Sienna again. They got the money last night. I think they get the money again here.
All right. Veno, welcome to the show.
Hello, guys.
I'm just laughing because I talk too much. Trig talks too much. And Veno just like, he's so good at this, just like understanding this craziness that is.
There's people inside WagerTalk that think I talk too much, Kel. So I'm not exempt from that conversation. And I've been told that sometimes. I call it thorough.
I like it. We want to hear what your leg of the parlay is. We're going to have you go first. So give us your leg of the parlay for today. And then there's a couple other early games I want to get to before we get to some of these late games. The reason why we're saving Nebraska, Iowa for the end of the show is because that's my parlay leg.
All right, let's get it off to a good start then here, guys. I'm going to be a little bit specific with a play here, isolate a first half play. I'll just preface this by saying, when I first came to town in Las Vegas, 1991, the first voice I really heard in sports betting was the late, great Dave Malinsky, who I think was probably the best mind in this industry. And I think a lot of people agree with that. Probably to this day, I don't think I've met anybody who goes outside the box the way Malinsky did. I say that only because I'm going to play East Tennessee State today, -1.5 first half. If you want to money line it, you can do that too, for a couple of reasons here. First off, Western Carolina beat this team twice during the regular season. Western Carolina was +6.5, +9.5. East Tennessee State, fairly heavy favorites both times, lose both games to Western Carolina. Western Carolina yesterday, you want to talk about crazy statistical stuff. They played Mercer. They're +24 on the boards. They out-rebound Mercer 53-29, 25 offensive boards. 58% of the shots they put up, they rebounded themselves, scored 27 second chance points. They're good at that. East Tennessee found a way to negate that somewhat in the two meetings this season, despite the fact that they lost them both. But here's where I want to go, guys. For Western Carolina, they had the extremely late game last night. That game didn't end until about 11:40 Eastern time. East Tennessee State got their business taken care of at noon. These teams are basically structured creatures of habit. And in this instance, you have a Western Carolina team that played the late game, now has to come back on consecutive days, play against a team that was the best in the league this year. They finished first, East Tennessee State did, with double revenge. And Western Carolina, I use this angle in this game only, but not only did they play the late game, they lose an hour to the clock. Obviously, clocks got pushed forward last night. Western Carolina plays late, loses an extra hour of sleep, has to come back in the afternoon, play this team that has double revenge against them. I would think that if there's a moment where Western Carolina is not all there energy-wise, it would be to start this game. And I think Tennessee State's going to come out breathing, or East Tennessee State, going to come out breathing fire because they do have the double revenge angle. So I thought the price was right here. Kind of an outside the box thought on this one that was ingrained into the handicap, but I like ETSU -1.5 first half. And again, if you guys want to money line it, I wouldn't be objecting that either because the price is not that costly.
Okay. Trig, I'm going to give you the option. There's a couple other early games, USF Charlotte or Northern Iowa UIC. Is there one of those that you have a stronger opinion on?
No, though let me go to the. I'll take here. You know what? Let me take Boston U Navy because that's another early one, and that's one I have probably the strongest opinion on of the other early stuff. So again, we're going back to the Patriot League. What does that mean? We're on campus sites. Navy has been the best team in the Patriot League all year. They are the #1 seed in the tournament. They will have home court throughout this tournament. And, I really thought they played one of their kind of worst games in memory on Thursday. Really let Bucknell hang around for a long time. Bucknell has a big man named Dories that has come a long way throughout the course of the season. He's a young guy. And he was able to go toe-to-toe with Aiden Kehoe. Bucknell had a great game plan for that game. And but the thing with Navy, because and the reason I want to bring that up, I was on Navy in that game. That one didn't work out. They settled for a lot of just late. It was lazy shots, Kelly. It was a team that felt like they were going to show up and run them out of their own gym by 20. And, they were kind of pushed further back than they probably would have liked to have been on the 3-point line. Bucknell sort of baited them into some of those threes. And they took, lazy shots and found themselves in a game with only like 8 minutes to go where they were right there with Bucknell. They end up winning the game by 8. They fail to cover. I think that they're going to take that game and come out today with just a much more focused, like, hey, we're on our home court twice. We win 2 games. We're in the NCAA tournament for the first time since since David Robinson, Rob? I don't know. I'll let him answer that after, but it's been a really long time for Navy, getting to the NCAA tournament. This price range, now that you've got Boston U coming in, is much more reasonable in my opinion. I think it's fair, the 7.5. That's right about where I make the number. But here you're not asking them to win and win by 15. You're basically asking them to pull away, hit some free throws down the stretch, maybe go up double digits and call it a day. And I absolutely think they can do that here. Boston University has come a long way from the beginning of the season. There's probably 3 or 4 guys on this BU roster that either got hurt in November or never played. So Boston University is a much different team than the one that was like power rated near the top of this league coming into the season. But there's still a ceiling for this team, Kelly. And I think the ceiling is about here. They get by American in the first round at the last second. That's sort of where I see Boston University maxing out. I don't think they really have a chance to pull the upset in this game. I haven't laid it yet because, again, my number's pretty in line, but I wouldn't be that surprised to see Navy salted away at the free throw line. They can hit free throws. Austin Bignini, one of the best free throw shooters in the conference, and the kid just lives at the line, especially at the end of games. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Navy win this one by double digits.
Like I said, the comment section is being really nice today. So I was putting all the nice comments up. Here's a nice one about Rob Veno. They're thanking you for the degenerate special for Hawaii. Plus 930. How come I didn't get that text? I would have loved to cash a plus 930 last night, 2 nights ago, whatever that was. It's all starting to run together. This is March, and we're going to answer any of your questions you guys have in the chat. So since Trig elected to not answer either one of my questions, Rob Veno, do you have an opinion on either one of those games, whether it be the Northern Iowa UIC game or Charlotte, South Florida?
Yeah, I'll give you quick opinions on both, Kelly. I think South Florida is rounding into form here. Again, a NATO's assistant down there, Brian Hodgson. I know Trig and I have talked quite a bit about this team, and I know that his feeling on them was they would be the class of the American Athletic. They've turned out to be the class. They really ran Memphis right out of the gym the other night. Charlotte's a team that wants to play slower pace, almost pedestrian, but they're really efficient offensively. South Florida, of course, fast pace, as fast as it gets inside that league. Just think of Nate Oates, as I mentioned, and you'll know how they play. So you're probably going to get points here. The question for me becomes, do I want South Florida to isolate them and play their team total over? Do I want to play full game over? I would leave that up to the chat, whichever way you think, but I would think some form of over works here in this game. South Florida really, like I say, rounding it to form. The other game, NIU against Illinois Chicago, and NIU is, or UNI, University of Northern Iowa. I got that wrong. NIU is Northern Illinois. UNI has really come on as of late. It's interesting. Yesterday, I had a number of them. They took 44 shots. That's all, 44 shots for the whole game and scored over 70 points. They shot insanely well. They are time clock consuming, methodical. UIC kind of the same way. They're going to play defense like Northern Iowa is. I kind of think Northern Iowa has second half of the season been the class of this league. I don't really want to lay it against Illinois Chicago, but I think if we had the proverbial gun to head, I would look at Northern Iowa here, an array of 3-point shooters. not necessarily the greatest defense, but I think their pace allows them to play defense well to limit teams' possession. So for me in that game, it would probably be a slight look at Northern Iowa. I just don't want to lay 3. I think the bettors got the best of the number already.
All right, Adam Trigger. Yes.
Can I answer a question in the chat that, like, because there's a conversation going on about High Point Winthrop, and that is a noon game. I think that's as good of a live betting opportunity as you could find. Here's the thing. So Logan Duncombe, the player I referenced earlier, has a broken foot. Okay. And basically the consensus was that we wouldn't see him in this tournament in the first game. Maybe we would see him at some point in the tournament. Now, they used him in the first game. That was shocking to a lot of people that follow this league and that are tuned into Winthrop basketball, was him playing in that opening round quarterfinal game. And he played phenomenal. Only played 16 minutes, but 20 points, 11 boards, as efficient of a 16 minutes as you're going to find. Yesterday, I don't think they really wanted to use him against Presbyterian. I think the idea was, let's give him the rest day because we want to get to the final. We need him in the final. But they brought him in. He played 11 minutes. He had an impact on the game. Winthrop wins. The reason I say this is a tremendous live betting opportunity, if you're watching this game and they can't use him or he gives it a go and it's just not going to work, remember, broken foot, 3rd game in 3 days, I think you get all your money in on High Point at this point because without 10 to 15 minutes of good ball from Duncombe, I just don't think Winthrop's going to have a chance against High Point. So that's a great live betting opportunity because that's all of that I just said is not going to be priced into the live line, right? Like the books are having a tough time pricing this game in general because they can't really tell he is the best player in Winthrop, one of the best players in the conference. So they've got to be conservative with how they price this line because if he comes out and gives you 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and he scores 20 points, you have to account for that. So great live betting opportunity for High Point. If you see at any point in time Duncombe done for the game or he's limping or he can't go, High Point Panthers are probably going to get it done.
All right. Our buddy Garth is in the chat. So we're going to get to his question here. Rob Veno, thoughts on Northern Kentucky Green Bay over 145.5?
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree there. I'll say one thing about Doug Gottlieb's team. They've tended to be a little better on the defensive end than I would have expected. Gottlieb kind of made some renovations, so to speak, to the style once he committed to the team, dropped his podcast, committed to the team. They took off, played better. They played better ever since. But it's not as up and down as it's been in the past. Northern Kentucky, on the other hand, extremely high scoring, extremely high paced. I think, Garth, to answer the question it's which side do you think can control the tempo of this game? I would say this, that number is in a range that's really attackable from an over standpoint because Northern Kentucky is involved in this game, and you'll probably get extension at the end in the form of free throw, make on the other end, free throw, make on the other end. So to me, it's the number more than the matchup that would attract me to over. Don't think I could bet under here. As good as I think Gottlieb has turned the team around, and especially on the defensive end, I don't know that they can stop Northern Kentucky from scoring enough to get over this type of number. So maybe I'd even look at Northern Kentucky team total. I think I would have reservations where that's concerned simply because this Wisconsin Green Bay team has exceeded expectations here. Like the play, Garth, wouldn't talk you off of it. I personally have not played it.
Right. Let's keep going real quick. Actually, let's have Trig give his parlay leg because we only got about 20 minutes until the games tip off. We'll get to more of your questions, and then I'll give you guys my best bet for today before we get out of here.
All right. Yeah, I'll do the parlay leg. I'm going to give a client play because I'm going to have multiple of them. So it's just that time of year. I always say during the college hoop season, because the volume's higher, can give a client play because there's so many of them. Can't do it during baseball because there's just not enough games, not enough plays. But I took Merrimack. I laid the 4 points. And so if you're in AC, I'll be at this game. This is the Boardwalk Hall MAC tournament. Merrimack Marist is first. Sienna Fairfield is second. Reason I love Merrimack in this spot, Kelly, these two teams played twice during the regular season. Merrimack won those games by a combined 38 points, 13 in Poughkeepsie, 25 up in North Andover. The reason they won those games is because Marist just simply does not have the shooters to do anything against Joe Gallo's zone defense, which is as good of a zone as you're going to find at the low major level. Okay, so unless Marist just randomly found shooters out on the AC boardwalk or the strip, or they found them walking around town, I don't see how they come in and do any better in this matchup. And then you want to top that off with the fact that Boardwalk Hall has now, since 2020, Kelly, been a under venue. You know, everyone wants to talk about Arch Madness in the Missouri Valley, every game going under. Wait till you see the 30 for 30 on unders at Boardwalk Hall about 5 years from now, when we've got a 10-year sample of this building, because the MAC is not full with like great offensive teams. And this venue has proven very difficult to shoot in. They've been there since 2020. They're, you know, at 5-2 to the under this year. It's every year they struggle to shoot there. So essentially what you're going to have is a Marist team that's going to be tasked with beating a zone that they can't beat in a building that's very difficult to shoot. On the other side, you have Kevier Kennedy, who just won Player of the Year in the MAC. He's Rookie of the Year, Player of the Year, first person to do it in like the 43-year history of the league. Guy is just an absolute bulldozer. He's going to have the ball in his hands. And what he can do is get downhill, get to the free throw line. Both of these teams are elite free throw shooting teams, top 10 in the country, Marist and Merrimack. But the difference here is, Kelly, one of these teams is going to get to the line and one is likely not. The team that's going to get to the line is Merrimack. Kevier Kennedy is impossible to keep away from the rim. He will himself there, and if you don't give him the rim, he's probably going to draw a foul. I think that ends up being the difference in the game. And you only have to lay 4, and this just feels like a game, like, honestly, the knockout punch ability of this Merrimack team to just not allow you to score for like 4 minutes and then drop a 15, 16, 17-0 run on you. It's been going on all MAC season. Even if you don't get that, you probably get Merrimack at the line to close this game out and win by 4 or more. So I laid -4 Merrimack. I think they just bludgeon Marist today. I don't think it's going to be close.
All right. Merrimack for Trig today. Premium client play he's given out here. Guys, we're going to be back next Sunday. Myself, Rob Veno, Adam Trigger, Brian Power, and Steve Merrill. 6 p.m. Eastern is what time Selection Sunday starts. We're going to be getting our live reactions as well as our live bets. So get ready for some of those early plays from your favorite college basketball handicappers. All right, Veno, I got to do it because they won't stop talking about it. They won't stop talking about this game, Michigan State, even though didn't Michigan just go into East Lansing and just bludgeon this team like a couple of weeks ago? One of the things I just saw on X from our good friend at John Ewing over there at BetMGM, top 10 matchups of conference teams. 50% of the bets, 96, 121, and 5. That's 44% since 2005. 71% of the bets are on Sparty, plus 9.5 to cover. Square dogs always make me a little apprehensive. Talk to me about another Big Ten matchup.
You know, I don't know if it was Shane or not yesterday, Kel. Somebody came in here on our Saturday show and said, please give us a look ahead to the Sunday matchup between Michigan and Michigan State. And I think I got tasked with that. And so I did. Just to be repetitive, unless Trig wants to give his thoughts on the game, to be repetitive real quick, Michigan did go to East Lansing, blew them out. I had said yesterday that one of the things I always look at is coaches love to correct what went wrong the first time around. There's probably no better adjustment head coach than Tom Izzo. They still are going to have the same matchup problems with Michigan. However, you put a little trust in Izzo in this price range. Remember that game in East Lansing, they were only getting like 1.5 or 2. So it was what after Michigan had gone on like an 0-8 ATS run inside the conference. They were overpriced in every single game. When you come to find out, 2020 hindsight is great. But in that small, just win the game for me aspect of it, Michigan blew Michigan State out. I think there are corrections made today a little bit by Izzo. I don't think his team is in awe of any venue. Going to Michigan doesn't really, scare Michigan State at all. The one thing I would caution real quick where Michigan is concerned, and I've said this a couple of times, I read a Dusty May quote about a month ago, and probably less than a month ago, where he said he doesn't feel like Michigan's even hit their ceiling yet. And so that could be coach speak, or that could be there's another gear. I don't know that there's another gear possible from the way they beat Michigan State the first time around. But I know this, Michigan State will probably rebound better here. I don't think they knew what they were in for against the Michigan front line the first time. I would probably look towards Michigan State plus points here. Again, not something that I bet, but, asking me to make a choice, I would choose Michigan State.
All right, let's get to a couple more of these questions. We got about 15 minutes to go. Trig, North Dakota State, North Dakota, which I did give out a sharp play on the total. Hold, please, and I'll let you know what that was. It was on the under 147. I think I got under 146. Yikes. That being said, there's that. Or you could break down Towson, Charleston.
I'll take that Towson Charleston game. I was at the regular season meeting in Towson, Maryland at the Seku Arena or the Seku Arena. Everyone there corrected me. It's a long E. It's the Seku Arena, Towson, Maryland. Towson won that game. And at the time, Kelly, it was a huge win for them. It was almost like a season, like kind of like turning around their season, at least momentarily. Not that their season is totally lost. Like you're in the Coastal. The winner of this conference tournament is going to be the winner that goes to the NCAA tournament. So one bid league. So Towson has as much to play for as anyone, but this has been a very disappointing year for Towson. This is a team that many thought would compete to win this league or at least be in the mix to win this league. They went 9-9. I like Charleston here for a couple of reasons. So in that first meeting, Charleston was still sort of like working their way back from some injuries. Very disjointed. It was, Rob had pointed out Charleston being a play on in conference play. And this was like right around the time they lost this game and lost the next game. And I think it was like from that point in time that Charleston's just been crushing teams. Charleston played their way from a couple of early season injuries and people writing them off to second place in this league, 14-4. In CAA play. And I just feel like that game against Towson, the first meeting, occurred when they really just weren't right yet. And so now you talk about, Towson won that game 61-52. It was a very sort of one-dimensional offensive performance for Charleston. They settled for a lot of threes. Again, just very disjointed. And that was what they were at that point in the season. Since then, 10-2. They finished the year 10-2 since that game. I just think this is a different Charleston team than what Towson saw back in like early January. And I think Towson's a favorite, which I kind of disagree with. I would have, Charleston's a favorite, 2.5-point favorite. That's about where I had it in that 2.5 to 3 range. But if you're just talking about who I think wins this game, I think it's going to be Charleston. And, if you win, and you're only laying 2.5 more often than not, that's probably going to be the right side. So I like how the spot sets up for the Cougars and just like the way that they're playing better than Towson right now.
All right, my leg of the parlay is kind of funny. I have to laugh about when things get cold for me. Yesterday I went 0-3. Yes, the comment section was dragging me for Auburn. Nice little CLV trophy by the Tigers there that did not show up in Tuscaloosa. And it was frustrating, right? Because it was over once it started. So I just didn't bother watching. And that's how I'd rather lose games than how Iowa likes to lose games. You guys just saw that, well, they had Michigan on the ropes, one of the top 3 power rated teams in the country, and they could not get it done at home. Now, I know Nebraska is no one to slouch on here, but I think coming off that Michigan loss, they're at home. Now they got to go to Lincoln and play a team that is one of the best defensive teams in the country. It's going to be one of those spots where I just don't love Iowa. I don't like their pace of play here. I don't like how they match up here. They don't hit their 3-point shots. I think Nebraska is one of those offensive teams that if we see them get some boards and hit their free throws, down the stretch, this one's going to get ugly, and it's going to get ugly late. Lay the 6. I'm looking at the odds logic screen. You can still find some 5.5s. Find some 5.5s. 6. Do not lay 6.5 because there is a 6.5 right now at the Hard Rock here in Florida. The lone one. Those bastards. They're begging you for some Iowa money, and I'm not giving it to them. I like the Cornhuskers here, and we're going to lay it with them. In Iowa, losing that Michigan game twice. I was on Iowa. We gave it to you from Art to Caesar, if you guys remember, and I thought they might win that game outright. They did get the cover, but no money line cash. All right, let's see what else we've got here in the comments section. Classic. Here you go. Flat spot for Iowa. You were absolutely right. And I did see something on Twitter earlier, 0-9. I know our good friend Ski Profit likes to do the Killer Sports SDQLs. And it was Iowa's 0-9 after shooting less than 8 3-point shots, I believe. I'll see if I can find the tweet. Yes, you probably should. I have been ice cold in the month of March. 8 days, not great. February, great month. March kind of turned a corner here I don't like. That being said, let's find a question here for Rob Veno. We've got about 9 minutes left until tip-off, and I did drop those Art to Caesar sharp plays in the chat. So if you guys aren't seeing them, I guess let me know. This guy's been asking about North Dakota State the whole time, and I did drop that under in here. Rob Veno.
Let me run with that, Kel. Let me run with that game real quick here because you said something interesting. I didn't comment on it the first time around. Trig did, but you had said, is it just as simple or do better is however you phrased it, just automatically conference tournament time bet unders. And it's so true, right? Conference tournament game, we need to bet under. We need to bet under. We need to bet under. On and on and on and on. And I've had some success here waiting till they push these games so far and then push back and come up with Tennessee State, a good example last night in the Ohio Valley Conference Championship game. The teams had played 2 extremely high-scoring games all season long, but you know what? Teams have played more than one day in a row. Got to bet under. Conference championship game, going to be defensive. Got to bet under. And so I think you might have the same case here in this game. This game has been pushed way down to 144.5 now in some outlets. And I think there's probably a pretty good reason to take a little bit of pushback because this game could fall somewhere between where it opened and where it is right now. For North Dakota, last night, this is one of the worst 3-point defenses in the Summit League. And somehow, some way, miraculously, they hold St. Thomas, one of the best 3-point shooting teams, not only in the conference, they're number 1, but in the nation, I think they're top 50. They hold them to 4 of 24 from 3-point range. And I use the term hold them kind of loosely because a little more St. Thomas poor shooting night rather than North Dakota defense. Now you come and you play in-state rival North Dakota State for the conference championship. North Dakota State, the second best 3-point shooting team in the league and overall the best shooting team. When you take everything into consideration, true shooting percentage, here's your best team, North Dakota State. I would not expect North Dakota to get away with a 4 for 24 defensive performance against threes here in this game. North Dakota State's going to make theirs. North Dakota probably is going to have to play catch up in this game. I get the fact that ND State really does like to be methodical, and if they get a lead, they like to control clock. I can understand it from that perspective. But in these conference tournament games, what you find out is the other side, there's no give up. I watched the game yesterday. Actually, it wasn't a conference tournament game, but I'll reference it here. It was DePaul, who just started fouling with like 2 minutes left in the game. In instances, that's what you get here at conference tournament time. Nobody wants their season to end, especially in the championship game. You just keep fouling, extend. 144.5 looks a little bit low to me in this instance. They played a game earlier this year. In fact, they played 2. We got to 149 and 159. I just think maybe it's been pushed a little bit too far downward now, and now's a pretty good opportunity to hop in and try an over.
All right, let's hit a couple more of these if you guys have anything. Yeah, look, Big Ten overs yesterday. Veno's correct about some of these. I would call them old adages, right? Like I think I've seen on Twitter, there was Missouri Valley unders, right? And everybody wants to bet those. And then the first round of the NCAA tournament, years and years and years, unders were great, except for the last 3. They have not been profitable. So things do change. Handicapping styles change. Obviously, college basketball as a whole has changed, and you got to get to adjusting with the times. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions.
I got a question.
Yeah,
I got a question I got a question, and it's kind of for Rob. So like, Rob's our totals guy. I really don't handicap totals in the sense that like, it's just not my style of handicapping. So when I get a total take, I'm always excited to give it to Rob on our full court press show to see if I'm onto something or not. And we were talking unders a second ago in conference tournaments, but this is an over, in my opinion, that makes like all the sense in the world. So I want to see if Rob agrees or disagrees. So you have Georgia Southern playing Marshall tonight out in the Sun Belt tournament. The Stairway to 7 or whatever they're calling it, the ladder format. And I always thought, listen, as teams start to get tired or fatigued, it's always the defense is always going to go first, right? Like listen, when you got the ball, you're not tired. If you get the ball in your hand, suddenly you're no longer tired. It's the defensive end where you're a little bit tired. But Georgia Southern's been shooting the lights out. And of course, they're the teams that has played multiple games. Rob, Marshall, since Matthew Van Komen has been out, has sort of been a sieve defensively. You and I kind of have discussed this on our show quite a bit because he's been out for weeks now. Does that game just fly over, or is there something I'm missing in that one?
It's flown over twice, Adam. I mean, they played 2 times this year. You get 181 and you get 188. And for what it's worth, just talking about in general, Sun Belt Conference totals, you realize they've been playing for like 6 days now. There hasn't been one game played under 157. Everything's been 157 or higher, which includes the Georgia Southern team. The other night, guys, Georgia Southern took 52 shots from the field. 44 were threes. They only took 8 2-point shots. It's crazy. Yesterday, they adjusted a little bit. But again, we're talking about a Nate Oates assistant who, in this case, his team is playing their 5th game in 5 days. But I'm kind of the opinion that this team is conditioned to do so. Yeah. It would be like saying, do you trust Alabama to play 5 games in 5 days? Of course I do, because that's what they're conditioned to do. They play that style. So Georgia Southern has not run out of gas. They've scored in succession since they started 88, 80, 94, 96. Probably not going to stop here against Marshall. Marshall has not found a way to stop them at all. Georgia Southern beat this team, by the way, guys, twice during the season. 2-0 sweep, beat them by 14 and 17. Like I mentioned, both games were really high scoring, 181 and 188. For the Georgia Southern side, they shot 48.3% from 3 in both games combined and 56.5 on 2s. Both of those games were within the last 3 weeks. So it's current form, Georgia Southern blowing out Marshall, really high scoring games. Honestly, 5th in 5 days. I don't know what changes here unless people just miraculously come out and start missing shots, but I wouldn't expect fatigue to play a factor here at all.
All right, guys,
just
go ahead.
Quick case for the dog, though. Matthew Van Komen, 7'4". Okay, like he allows you to extend the zone and defend the 3-point shot. Without him, that's why Marshall can't defend anyone, because without him and his rim defensive ability, that zone it can't extend as far out behind the 3-point line. They've had to play a little bit differently. And so if Georgia Southern's just going to let it rip from 3, they theoretically should get those 3s in this game. So maybe a side with the dog as well, because I think they're like a 4.5-point underdog right now.
All right, Trig, let's go right to you real quick. Hofstra minus 4.5 was on the Art to Caesar sharp list. They moved it to 5 there at the Superbook. There's still lots of 4.5s out there on the odds. Logic screen, any opinion on this one?
I'm going to say one thing and let Rob take it, because he has had a great beat on William and Mary, who's Hofstra's opponent. I'll say one thing about Hofstra. They're incredibly jump shot reliant. I'd love a look at them on this floor before I bet one of their games. And Rob he's had the pulse in William and Mary, so I'd rather give him the chance to speak here.
Okay. Yeah. We will give Rob
we're up against it, Kel, so I'll go really fast here. I usually don't say I played a game already on this show. I try to dance around what I've given clients and what I've played. But I did play this game up and over the total, 154.5. I think it's more from a William and Mary standpoint. I think they'll score points here, and they just don't play much defense. So, again, it's a team under Brian Earl that's kind of conditioned to play this style. I see over 154.5 in that game.
All right, guys, it is noon. The games are tipping off. This has been Last Call, Full Court Press edition, special Sunday show. We're going to be back next Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern with Brian Power, Steve Merrill, Rob Veno, Adam Trigger. We're going to go over all of our Selection Sunday early thoughts and, of course, some of those early bets. You guys are back tomorrow morning, Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern, right here live on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. So make sure you guys check out the show. Shout out to the Westgate Superbook for those sharp plays. Shout out to Adam. Shout out to Veno. And shout out to all of you guys who participated today. Let's have a big day because I need it after yesterday.